Being held remotely in accordance with the Governor's Proclamation 2028. The meeting's recorded and live streamed, as you all know now. Will the clerk please call roll?
Yes. Councilmember Daughtry.
I'm here, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Frizzell.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Marine. Okay. Councilmember Mead. Councilmember Merrill.
I'm here, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Nearing.
Here, thank you.
Thank you. Labor Representative Norton.
Here, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Roberts.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Schweddy.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Wright. Okay, and Mayor Marine.
I am here.
Thank you. Chair, we do have a quorum. I'll go ahead now and take roll for our alternates. Councilmember Gallagher.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Nearing. Councilmember Payne.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Thompson. And Mayor Matsumoto Wright. Chair, that concludes roll.
All right, thank you very much. Now we're going to move on to public comment. We have 4 people signed up to give comments and 1 person sent in written comments. Mr. Joe Kunzler, everybody got those earlier in the day. And so we're going to go ahead and go to the verbal comments. We have the first one would be Timothy Retzloff. Is he here? I don't see Timothy. All right, we'll wait for that one and move on to Peter Mycutt. Is Peter Mycutt here?
Unmute. Check test 1 2. You hear me now? Okay.
Yep, Peter, we can hear you.
All right, great. Well, I got a couple things. One was basically the headline was moving forward. So I understand you got 69 breakthrough cases, drop trips, and I'm really wanting to know what the plan moving forward is. I know personally that when you have these breakthrough cases of COVID at work, drivers go out for what now is about 5 days, and that's a loss of hours for that need to be covered in work. Plus, it's been noticed that Rick has actually dropped trips, specific trips, and that's helped out, but they're still running, well, they're below 200 hours of open work, which means all work's assigned and there's still work that needs to be covered. And that puts more drivers at risk because they're like picking up the overtime. That's what they want, but it creates a burnout. So as I see it, all hours lost from these drop trips will be absorbed into what's called a run cut for drivers, so that they are doing what's called built-in overtime, which will result in more time in the seat for drivers. And when drivers are subject to more time in the seat, there's probably less recovery time, because that's the only way I can see these hours being absorbed. And if that is to happen, there will be more chances for people to get sick. And, I'd like to know the answer to that. Also, it's my understanding that the former CEO reduced service back in March of 2020 and put out a notice regarding a furlough for 3 months for anyone 60 and under with underlying health problems or pregnant. And then last May of 2021, a new law, HELSA, came into effect, and drivers were not updated about that. And HELSA is for frontline workers at high risk. Why didn't CT update us on that? That's all I have to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Next, we will move on to Lori Boyd. Lori. Are you there, Lori?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Lori. Thank you.
Oh, great. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. What does a police officer, supervisor, coach operator, dispatcher, service ambassador have in common? Being threatened, punched, smoking fentanyl and meth, fighting, urinating, spitting, cutting toenails, yuck. All these are examples of daily behavior in which CT professionals deal with on around a coach. Yes, daily. Every day is different. With this behavior, we need tools we need to work in our occupation daily, correct? Like computers, phones, procedures, and protocols to keep us safe and in order to do our job to the best of our abilities. We need safety. Our number one tool should be safety. For example, a passenger boards the bus, doesn't pay his fare, continues back to the first passenger he sees and says, "I'm going to kill you, your bus driver and all your bus riders." Then walks to the back of the bus laughing. It's an emergency, right? My help arrived 20 minutes later. This could have been prevented by established protocols. Number one, safety protocol. If we are spit on, or punched, our tool number two should be barriers. These barriers would prevent this. Metro, ET, Island Transit all have barriers. CT brought in prototype barriers, which were low quality and with bad glare. Excuse me. Also, only a handful of people partook in the feedback. Furthermore, a lot of money would be saved with doing the work in-house. Tool 3, compression time. Offer the scenario of the guy who said he's going to kill us all. The driver should be pulled off the road, go back to base, fill out the event report. Then the decision should be made at that time by the supervisor and the coach operator to go back to the road or to go home. Would you like me driving you home from work if this was happened? Tool number 4, police and service ambassadors need to ride our buses daily. The worst ones, Swift, 201s, 202s, 101s, deter the rolling bus of fare evaders, drug users, and dealing on the coaches. Make it safer for everyone. Progressively, this has gotten worse. I was on the executive board for the union. I represented the dispatchers, coach operators, and service ambassadors. We had monthly meetings with labor management. For 18 years, we gave example after example of problems out on the road, and we demanded help. We gave suggestions and formed groups with management to deal with these problems. Nothing is being done today. Bring out those tools. These tools should be looked at by the decision makers, coach operators, dispatchers, and supervisors, and the union. Bring together those people and bring safety and protocols for all of us. We are asking to bring back the safety of our buses and our bus shelters. Those everyday customers back to ride our buses, the people we love and enjoy. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Lori. Next, we'll listen to Chris Shannon.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Chris, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I come here today as a driver, but also as a concerned citizen. I was hired by Community Transit in 2009 for the new Swift service. Since that time, I've seen a decided downturn in driver and passenger safety and the lack of CT's response. Driver morale is at an all-time low. I am known to be a pretty unflappable driver and able to handle most situations on my own. The stress of Blue Line is affecting me greatly. I was recently reduced to tears and had to be convinced not to walk off the job because of the daily abuse. Here are some examples of what we go through. There's the drug dealing and abuse people do on the bus and in the shelters, people peeing and defecating, drinking, rowdy behavior that is taking our eyes off the road. And let's not forget about the shooting last year. They take over the shelters, litter, and literally set up camps. Actual paying passengers have expressed their frustration about this and how unsafe they feel riding the buses. A couple times this shakeup, some regular passengers have felt the need to intervene on my behalf as I try to get unruly passengers off my bus, disregarding their own personal safety. Only one time has a supervisor responded, and that's because he was following my bus. The people who take advantage of the system have all the power thanks to CT giving them that authority. They are getting more brazen and violent as time goes on. They don't care because they know there are no consequences thanks to the new state laws for law enforcement. If CT really cared about our safety, they would actually back up the federal TSA mandate like the airlines do and not let people ride because it's easier. Our focus should be on the road, not if someone isn't wearing a mask or wearing one correctly. Even asking can cause a confrontation. We are tired of being the mask police. Bottom line is that drivers don't feel safe, our stress levels are at an all-time high, and CT isn't doing enough to ensure our safety while on the road. If CT feels that driver and passenger safety is of the utmost importance, then prove it. So I recommend the following. Give drivers who bid on Swift premium pay, like combo pay, since there is more risk to those drivers. Bring back hazard pay until COVID isn't a national pandemic and COVID procedures don't have to be taken. Put the barriers and social distancing back on the buses and keep the barriers on Swift buses up permanently. Put the Swift ambassadors back on the buses and move them from the CIS department to transportation. They were hired for fare enforcement, not marketing, and hire more ambassadors. Get the supervisors and transit police out of their cars and on the platforms as a needed presence to dissuade problem passengers from getting on our buses. And give us the 410 shifts. We've been asking for years and there really is no excuse. It will cut down on absenteeism, give our bodies and our minds the rest they need, and cut down on workmen's compensation claims. And please cut the red tape and make the immediate changes needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. All right, with that, I'm going to ask if Timothy Retzloff has joined us or not. It doesn't look like it. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the Chief Executive Officer's report.
Chair, it looks like we do have another person who's raised their hand if you want to do a call for additional public comments.
Okay, go ahead. Bring in Mr. Joe Kunzler.
This is going to be incredibly brief. I didn't plan on speaking today, but I just want to stress that as a transit passenger, that I count on these operators to be my limbs, and I just found that this testimony is very disturbing, and I hope action is taken. I trust CEO Ellenfritz and his staff to handle this. I know some of his staff have came to the rescue of public transit in recent years. Hello, and I want to leave it at that. This is clearly an unacceptable situation. Transit operators are my limbs. Transit public records officers are my eyes and my spies. The transit CEO is the bridge between me and the staff. The board is supposed to be the bridge between the community and community transit. Everybody needs to step up here. Whatever the operators need, let me know, let the other writers know, we're here for you. And that's really all that's appropriate for me to say. But thank you for having me this afternoon. I didn't plan on speaking. Thanks again to all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Kunzler.
Mr. Chair, would it be appropriate for me to speak now? I have something to say about some of the testimony, but I can wait till call on board members at the end of the meeting, but I didn't know if it was appropriate to talk now or not. So I'll let you decide.
Now go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I do find this disturbing in conjunction with, and there may not be an absolute connection, but I think there is somewhat of a connection to the articles we're reading on Sound Transit, basically not collecting almost a large chunk of the fares that they should be collecting. And I know that's not exactly what some of our employees are talking about here, but I think there is a correlation where we've become far too lenient, I think, in the transit industry of just letting people ride whatever they're riding, nobody checking if they're paying, nobody really monitoring certain of the behavior. And I do think we as a board need to take a look at ensuring that our drivers are safe and that our law-abiding and paying customers are kept safe as well. And so I don't know what that means, and I would depend, I guess, on the CEO and the staff. They know far better what situation we're in this, how we can use the assets that we have, whether it be our transit police or other options. But I was really discouraged to read about the fare situation with Sound Transit because it makes me wonder what the situation is with community transit. And when I go and support a taxpayer measure to up the sales tax significantly in our county, What I'm not doing is saying that we'll ask the tax-paying public to subsidize people that want to ride the bus for free. And so I just think these are things that need to be looked at. I think it's probably a good time for us as a board to ask the administration to maybe report back on our fare collection and around some of these issues of safety for the transit public and for our coach operators, and make sure that we are not succumbing to this nationwide narrative of kind of pushing law enforcement to the side and creating a situation on our coaches that that basically throws our hands up and says we can't do anything about it. I think we have to find a way to do about it and to make sure that people that are breaking the law are held accountable. That's my 2 cents, and I would hope we could maybe start that conversation today and then maybe get a time for the administration to report back to us on these issues. Thank you.
Anybody else on the board want to speak to this issue right now?
Agree.
Well, that was succinct. Thank you. Go ahead, Jan.
Well, I guess I know we have 19 people employed with the sheriff's department, and I don't think I've ever seen anything that said how their shifts work and when they ride the buses or whatever. I guess I'd like to see some kind of background information on that as to, I know one of them mentioned they were in cars, but I've never asked before, but I'd like to see some kind of report that says, okay, we have X number of police out there on a given shift, and what do they do? Do they go on to the buses, or what exactly, or do they just answer calls when they come in? But that's kind of what I'd like to see.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Sid.
Well, yeah, this is a tough issue. I'm just grateful for our drivers, and I hear the pain and the fear, in their hearts. And the one thing I would say is just on a call earlier today discussing, law enforcement and other things, and it's just a tough time. And I know that's not an excuse. I do hope that administration here will do what they can do. We're just in a very difficult time with law enforcement where our police forces feel like they can't even arrest people anymore. And so it's just tough. So I just would like to see, I trust the administration to get back to the board on what can be done. And I appreciate the drivers bringing these kinds of comments forward. I mean, safety, as everybody knows, safety is first. And I know everybody believes that that's on this call. So just like to see, we can just do what we can do, but I'm grateful for the folks to step forward. For every one or two that does that, there's 10 or 20 or 30 that feel the same way. So thank you.
Thank you. Tom, did you have a comment?
I was going to make a brief comment on it. I think Sid covered most of what I wanted to say, but I am disturbed by the testimony that we've had today, and it does fit in with things that we see actually nationally that is going on. That there's a coarsening in the general public on things, I think, brought on by the pandemic. One of the statements today that was very impactful that I see in other areas as a part of the city, and that is that people abusing the system have all the power. And I do think that we have that going on. I have seen those things. And yes, I would like to see the staff work on a way to address this. I think it's a key part of getting our ridership back is to make the bus drivers and the other passengers feel welcome in our stops, on our buses, and the drivers also. So this is, I think, an important part of our post-pandemic recovery, frankly. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Marine.
Thank you, Chair Dudley. Yeah, I mean, these are the same conversations that we are having, and certainly had today with some of our mayors when we meet by Zoom as well. And it just, we need to come together, not just transit, but Association of Washington Cities, businesses, to say, until we kind of speak together and take back that's what's going to have to happen, because you're right, the power is in the wrong hands right now, and it needs to be back. It needs to be changed. So I appreciate the people speaking up. We understand it's not the easiest thing to solve, but I think there's a lot of leaders out here. If we work together, we can change some of the attitudes and making these laws they're making it harder for us to deal with these issues.
Thank you, Mayor Frizzell.
Yes, so I was in that Sound Transit meeting as an observer last week, and I was shocked by the number of people that are getting on our transit coaches and trains that are not paying. And some community members brought that up to me as well after they saw the articles in the local newspapers, and they said, you know, when they see somebody else not pay and not suffer a consequence, then they think they can do it too. So I think that we're in the middle of making a very big snowball, where if we could have some enforcement, I think then the snowball gets smaller. But as we talk about Sound Transit, then I start to be concerned about community transit, and are we experiencing the same situation? And if the public perception now, after the media has gotten the story, if the perception is, well, nobody else is getting caught, so I'm going to start, that sends definitely the wrong message to our community. Thank you.
And we're watching with interest what's going to happen to the Supreme Court decision on all this too. So we have that coming up pretty soon. I don't remember the date of that, but it's coming up pretty soon. So that's going to be telling. Maybe Supreme Court will be a little better than they have been in the past and bring this back to try to get us back to center again. That would be nice. If there's no more comments, we'll go ahead and move forward with the CEO report.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, what a table setter that was for the CEO's report. I think I will deviate from my prepared remarks a little bit and speak to some of the issues that have been raised here. It's a timely conversation, so I appreciate it. And I want to express appreciation to Chris and Lori and Peter for showing up today and sharing their views and their experiences. You know, safety, it's the most important thing we do. And we don't always get it right, and we can always improve. There's a saying in the transit business that a safe system is a busy system. And we're operating a system at half the ridership we used to, and it's not nearly as busy as it used to. And so that makes room for bad behavior. And with all the other resource constraints, I think one of you used the comment snowball. It's tough out there. I ride the bus usually once a week. Usually I rush hour in the morning and the afternoon, and 9 times out of 10 it's perfectly fine. But the bad behavior isn't happening during rush hour. It's happening really early in the morning, really late at night. So there's things in the works to try to get ahead of it. And I think Mayor Naring made a good suggestion to come back with a more detailed deep dive on what issues we're encountering out there from a data and statistical standpoint, what our general practices are to try to provide for safety, and some of the initiatives we have underway to improve conditions. Some of us are going to do some late night rides in the next couple of weeks. I've asked our safety folks to arrange a ride along with our deputies this month, so I can get a look at what the deputies are seeing from their perspective and how they're responding and providing support for our employees. So I appreciate the concerns that have been expressed, and they're real. And I think we need to stay focused on them and see what we can do to improve conditions out there. Councilmember Merrill, I think, hit it, which is we need to be able to convince our customers that we can provide a safe and quality and convenient and efficient service to them in order to draw them back into the system in bigger numbers as the economy recovers and as employers return to more normal routines. And so that's always on my mind, and it's on the mind of our team. And so I would look forward to coming back and providing a more deeper discussion of some of the issues and tactics and strategies that we can bring to these concerns and these challenges. So I will take that away from this discussion as an assignment and look forward to that conversation. I will now resume our regular programming and fall into my prepared CEO report. There is a lot going on, so I'll try to move through this quickly. Obviously, I wanted to welcome our new board members, Mayor Frizzell, Councilmember Payne, Mayor Thompson, I don't think has joined us, but we are delighted to have you on board and also delighted to have our returning board members back. There's a lot of great work being done here, and we appreciate the guidance and the support we get from the board every day as we serve the public.
And Mayor Thompson has joined us.
Oh, great, great. Oh yeah, he's right there now. Welcome, Mayor Thompson. My Hollywood squares are always moving around. So brief report on our COVID response. We finished the month of January with 69 positive cases. We have 2 so far in the month of February. This trend is mirroring what we're seeing amongst our peer agencies around the region. I was on a regional call earlier this week. Pierce Transit's been over 100 cases in January, King County over 200, and so on. Cases appear to be peaking in the county, and I think we're seeing that here, knock on wood, but it's going to take a while for this spike to come back down, so we'll be in this for a bit longer. What we are seeing is that employees are experiencing milder symptoms, coming back to work fairly quickly, and we haven't seen any severe health impacts from these cases in January. As of today, we've got only 8 employees out on COVID leave. So that's hopefully the beginning of a positive trend. As I mentioned at some of our previous committee meetings and are alluded to at our workshop last week, we've done a number of things to respond to the Omicron wave. And just to recap those, we provided an additional 40 hours of COVID supplemental leave, directed our ICS group to begin acquiring a supply of test kits so we could speed up our contact tracing and testing activity. We've updated our quarantine policy to align with the updated CDC guidance, which basically means going from a 10-day quarantine standard to a 5-day. So these measures are combining to give us more flexibility to support people if they do get positive and return more quickly. We have reinstituted our regular meetings between employee engagement, ICS, and our union partners to focus on these issues, and we'll continue to keep that front burner. We also have adjusted service. We took a look at routes and adjusted headways, reduced some trips on certain routes to provide our dispatch folks and scheduling folks with a little more flexibility to even out service and meet the load. And we're operating at over 99% of scheduled service now since making those adjustments. That's giving customers more certainty and predictability about when their trips will occur. And we push that information out through our digital systems in real time. So we're now planning for our March service change and working with our transit partners in the region on that. It is likely that we will not see increases in service here or across the region, partly due to staffing, partly due to travel demand. But I think we will be able to focus on service reliability. And so we'll have more to talk about on that topic next month. Ridership remains low overall compared to pre-pandemic levels. We're still at about 50%. We had a drop during the recent snow event, and we've climbed back up a little bit. Ironically, Swift is the source of some of the concerns you heard about earlier in the meeting. It also continues to be our highest performing route, the blue line that is. about 75% of pre-pandemic levels, but overall the system's around, well, a little under 60% of pre-pandemic levels. We are continuing to hire at an aggressive pace. We've hired 22 additional folks since October. This month, or actually just the beginning of this week, I met with a new employee orientation. I think Mayor Roberts observed at a previous meeting about the incentives we're using to try to attract talent. We had a very large contingent of new folks. I think it was 14, some of whom have friends and colleagues here at CT who attracted them to the organization. So that's great to see. New HR folks, mechanics, parts personnel, customer service personnel. So trying to rebuild that pipeline. I have a few other things to report on, Mr. Chair. Before I proceed, I just wanted to see if anybody had any comments or questions on the COVID response.
Go ahead, John.
Oh, yeah, I think you've addressed it, CEO Hogan Fritz, but on, there is a kind of an ongoing concern on the routes that are affected from coach operators being out, but it sounds like you've peaked and are maybe on the downside of that. Am I to understand that correctly? Or because that was part of what has been expressed, I know, from some coach operators too, the concern of excessive overtime and whatnot, but maybe you can just touch a little bit more on that. I just want to see where we're at with that.
Right. So we've reduced service about 8% by increasing headways on certain routes. The main change was going to 12 minutes on Swift Green, and that freed up a lot of capacity in the system and a lot of flexibility to cover the rest of the work. So Peter was correct that people are using overtime, and we're using overtime as a tool to make sure we get all our service out. That's a blessing and a curse. There's a lot of employees who really love overtime, and they'll take as much as you can give them, but you got to be careful and meter that so that you don't overdo it. So, having made these adjustments, I feel like we've sort of right-sized service, and we're in a sustainable footing as we begin to increase the hiring process. So, looking out ahead over the next couple of years, we are planning to be on a growth trajectory to 2024 as we build up toward the opening of the Orange Line and the opening of the Linwood Light Rail Terminal. So we need to hire over 100 new coach operators over the next 2 years to meet those growth targets. And we're starting that from a reduced base now, which is a challenge. But we do have a sustainable footing for service, and then we'll continue to grow that forward as we staff up.
Thank you.
Rick, I have a question.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Jan.
On the 69 cases in January, I don't know if we do any tracing. Do we have any idea where all that is coming from?
We do our best. Most of it is coming from outside the workplace.
Okay.
And it's pretty even across the organization, every department. It's not just transportation, it's administration, maintenance, finance, what have you. So we haven't had an outbreak on site that we could detect since the big September outbreak. And that's obviously very positive. I think it's just a reflection of how aggressive the Omicron variant is out in the community.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so speaking of new hires, I want to announce a significant new hire. I'm pleased to announce that I've named Mark Holmes from the great city of New York as our new Chief Operations Officer. And Mark is with us today, and I'm just delighted to have him. Before I give him a minute to say hello, I just want to give you a little bit of background on him. We had a really great field. We had a really great process that engaged our union partners and our transportation and maintenance leadership team. the executive leadership team. So we put him through the gauntlet, and Mark came out great and strong. He's been in transit his whole career in New York. He's a self-described bus guy. He's had almost every job you can have in the operations space. I will say to the board, as an executive, my philosophy is to try to hire to my weaknesses. And as you know, I am a capital project and planning guy, and I can plan a system and a project and do an EIS and get permits all day long. But having somebody who's lived and breathed operations most of their career is going to be a huge help to me and to our executive leadership team. So I'm delighted to have him here. He's handled a lot of complexity of the type that we're going to be navigating the next few years, and I think he's going to make us better. So welcome, Mark. And if the board will indulge it, I was going to give him a chance to introduce himself.
All right, great. Thank you, Rick. And a pleasant good afternoon to Chair Daughtry and the members of the board. Yes, I am honored to be named Community Transit's newest Chief Operating Officer. This is really the pinnacle of what has been a thrilling 35-year career for my family and me. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to actually visit the Seattle Metro. And in addition to being drawn by the overall beauty of the area, I was also impressed by the bus network, especially the integration of services between CT, Sound, KCM, Pierce, and others. The presentation of those services, including the professionalism of your operators and the cleanliness of the buses themselves, led me to conclude that this is the place for me. Overall, I'm looking forward to working collaboratively with you all as CT moves forward, evolving as the transportation landscape evolves over the next 2 years, thanks to the forthcoming and exciting Linwood light rail extensions, the orange and green Swift expansions, and an overall bus redesign aimed at providing faster service and more direct connections for our riders. I'm privileged to help the mission to move folks from where they are to where they want to be by providing exceptional customer service that our riders deserve. Thank you again, and I'm looking forward to getting started.
Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Glad you could be here. Greetings to your family if they're watching at home. We're excited to have you here and looking forward to it. So Mark's going to join us effective March 21st. Right. He's got a few things to wrap up on the East Coast, and he's got a family to move, and he's got to find a place to live and all that stuff. So we'll be helping him with that, and we'll be helping him overcome his Jets and Mets fandom as he comes.
No, that's never going to happen, but thank you. And it's a pleasure meeting you all.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, Mr. Chair, a few more things I wanted to highlight, and then I will, we can move on in the agenda. We have a bunch of other stuff to do here today. Mentioned it to committee, but just wanted to say again to the board that FTA has moved the Orange Line CIG grant to DOL from headquarters, and we're looking forward to pinning that grant here in the next week or so. And that'll clear the way for us to move forward with the Orange Line project. Groundbreaking plans are in full swing. We're looking at the April congressional recess for that. So you can look forward to hearing more as we get closer to that big day. On the state front, I was honored to be invited by Governor Inslee to a forum this week with the other transit execs in the region to talk about public sector fleet electrification. We had an opportunity to talk with him and share some of our insights and suggestions for how the state can partner with the transit industry to address issues around the grid and sourcing energy equitably for agencies that are operating at different scales, from the very large to the very small. He had his transportation and energy policy advisors involved in that meeting and gave them some follow-up assignments to meet with some of us about those issues. So that was great. Also been in touch with Senator Leas and Representative 5 from Tacoma. The two of them are hard at work in this short legislative session at trying to put together a transportation package, which is a bit unusual for a short session, but it sounds like they are committed and putting the work in. So we've communicated with both of them what our priorities are, and continuing to hear reports that they're making progress. So we're keeping a very close eye on that and hopeful that something will break. Understand it's State of the City season. Had a chance to listen in on Mayor Roberts and Mayor Naring's comments. And I know several others of you are moving down that path as well. So we'll have either me or staff or both present to hear what's going on in your cities, and looking forward to that. We are moving forward with the next phase of our 2024 network public outreach this coming spring. We reported to you last week on the input received on the first round of public outreach, and the staff is now busy at work on concepts. And we'll be looking forward to engaging the public again on those concepts based on the first round of feedback and your input come second quarter. Also continuing to work on the plan to consolidate CT and ET operations and facilities. So we had first meeting of the executive steering committee last month, went over the work plan and the staffing plan timeline. And I think I can report that we are aligned with city staff on how we're approaching the work. And we'll be having our first meeting of the policy steering committee on February 15th. Chair Daughtry, Vice Chair Marine, and Council Member Merrill will be meeting with Mayor Franklin and Council Members Stonecipher and Zarlingo on the Everett side to go over the same material. So looking forward to that. Last but not least, we had a great news story today. We were able to hand off a Paratransit vehicle as a donation to Snow Goose Transit in Stanwood, Washington. We were joined by Board Member Roberts and Board Member Schweddy and John and Julie from Snow Goose. And I want to just give a big shout out to Roland Behe and Ryan and our procurement group, Mike Suela and his team in maintenance. They went over that vehicle with a fine tooth comb and made sure it was looking good and running well. And we were able to hand that off to them as a vehicle donation. So we stretched our vehicle donation program in this direction. This is the first time we've provided a paratransit vehicle. Usually it's van pool vehicles. This is obviously a vehicle that can do a lot more. It's higher capacity. It's got the lift. It's got all the safety features inside. It's going to help them reach a critical and sensitive sector of people who need this kind of help to get around their community and don't necessarily have ready access or affordable access to other services. So I want to thank Mayor Roberts and Councilmember Schweddy for making the trek down. It was nice to be able to have an in-person event. And that, Mr. Chair, concludes my report.
Thank you, Rick. It's really good to see the paratransit vehicle go. Thank you to both both Mayor Sid Roberts and Councilmember Janet Schweddy for attending that. I appreciate that. I wanted to attend, but I couldn't get there, so I'm sorry about that. Next, we're going to go on to committee reports. We'll start with the Strategic Alignment and Capital Development Committee, Mayor Marine.
All right. Well, thank you, Chair. And hold on one second while I had it set up there, and there we go. All right. So the Strategic Alignment and Capital Development Committee meeting was held remotely over Zoom on Wednesday, January 19th at 2 p.m. The meeting was attended by myself, Councilmember Tom Merrill, and Labor Representative Lance Norton. The committee reviewed and forwarded one action item, which is on today's board agenda, and that is RFP 2021-082, which is a SWIFT BRT shelter manufacturing and parts support to Dimensional Innovations Incorporated. And then we reviewed and forwarded two consent items on today's board agenda. That's RFP 2021-96, which is cleaning services for the bus stop, shelter, park and ride facilities to town and country office cleaning. And RFP 2021-076, which is a bus tire lease and on-site tire maintenance services to the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. Next meeting is Strategic Alignment and Capital Development Committee is scheduled for Wednesday, February 16th at 2 p.m.
Thank you, Mayor Marine. Next, we'll have Finance, Performance, and Oversight Committee, Councilmember Schweddy.
Okay, Kim, before I start, I don't know if anyone else is impacted, and I didn't touch my computer, but anyone who's talking, I can't see. They just disappear. I just have the voice. So I don't know if that's anyone else or if it's just me.
I'm not experiencing that.
Okay. Anyway, the Finance, Performance, and Oversight Committee met on Thursday, January the 20th, 2022 via Zoom. Board members Tom Merrill, Sid Roberts, and I attended. On the consent agenda is approval of resolution number 02-22, adopting the existing drug and alcohol policy, item C on the agenda. Second item, approval of December 2021 expenditures and payroll, items F through J on the agenda. The December 2021 sales tax report. Community Transit collected approximately 15.9 million in sales tax, which was approximately 1 million more than budgeted. Sales tax collections reported for the month of December 2021 reflect purchases made in October of 2021. The diesel fuel report for December. Year to date, Community Transit paid an average of $2.28 per gallon for diesel fuel compared to the 2021 budgeted amount of $2.07 per gallon. The budget team continues to monitor fuel costs. The next Finance, Performance, and Oversight Committee meeting is scheduled at 2 p.m. Thursday, February the 17th, 2022 via Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Schweddy. Next will be the Executive Committee report. The Executive Committee met on Thursday, January 20th via Zoom. Mayor Marine, Councilmember Schweddy, Mayor Naring, and I attended. There was an executive session held for labor negotiations, and the CEO provided his report. We will be going into an executive session soon to have that same report to the rest of the board. And you've already heard the CEO's comments. The next Executive Committee meeting is scheduled for February 17th at 11:30 a.m. via Zoom. Next is the consent items. I would entertain a motion.
I will move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any conversation about the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you. That'll bring us to the action items. First, award RFP 2021-82 Swift BRT shelter manufacturing and parts support. Melissa Colley. Hi,
Good
Melissa.
afternoon.
It's nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. Really quick before I start, I just wanted to thank Chair Daughtry. I know this is his last day performing the duties as the chair, and he and I've done a lot of work together, and I've really enjoyed it, and just really appreciate the incredible advocacy that you have had for community transit. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Melissa. Hence the sunset in the background.
So good afternoon, everyone. Melissa Colley, Manager of Regional Programs and Projects, which is our Swift BRT program and our grants program. You have before you awarding RFP 2021-082 for our Swift BRT shelter manufacturing and parts support. I wanted to provide just a little bit of background about how we got here. So in 2020, we started on a Swift station redesign effort. So looking at ways that we could improve our stations. And Christopher Silvera, who is our BRT program manager, did a really masterful job shepherding that process through, working with different stakeholders, working with the different departments to get a lot of really good feedback. I will say that, it's upon the comments of our drivers, one of the things that we were really looking for was ways to improve our customers' experience at these stations. So making sure that they feel safe, that they feel dry, as they're waiting for a Swift bus to arrive. So we went through this process, which now we need to now award a new master contract for our station, BRT stations. I wanted to walk you a little bit through how it works. So today, hopefully you will award the master contract. This will allow us, when we get ready to begin construction on the Orange Line, which you'll be seeing that construction award soon, that we will actually come back to the board and say, now we're going to order X amount of stations that will be part of the Orange Line project. And those stations come as a kit to Community Transit, and then we provide those to the general contractor on the construction project to install at the different station locations. So that's kind of how that process works. You'll see that we are asking for a contract of 2 years, and then hopefully we'll really like who we're working with, and we can add on to that. That will allow us to potentially utilize the stations for our Gold Line, which we'll be starting scoping study on. I'm sure Mayor Naring likes to hear that, and Jan as well. So anyways, just looking at the contract features, there's just some renderings. We're looking at improving rain protection. So those of you who are familiar with our station design right now, you know we have the curved windscreens. We are making an adjustment on that. So you'll see at the back of the station, there'll be more of an L-shaped windscreen there. We're hoping that will improve not getting rained on and not getting a lot of wind on you as you're waiting. It also gives a little barrier to the back so that you feel a little bit more comfortable sitting there and someone can't just come up behind you without you knowing that. We looked at improving the seating and always looking at easier fare payment and customer information. So we'll be having PID signs, public information display signs at these stations. It'll tell customers when the next bus will be arriving and other types of information. So we really feel like this is going to be a really nice update to our station design, but still keeping them very identifiable for our customers so that they know that iconic marker there is, the station that they need to be at. They're at the right place, putting the bands at the top to delineate the different line colors. And I think that's it. So we would just ask for approval of award of RFP 2021-082. And I can answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the board for Melissa? None? Okay. Then I would entertain a motion on the RFP.
Well, Chair, I will move that the Board of Directors authorize the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate and award Master Contract RFP 2021-082 Swift BRT Shelter Manufacturing and Parts Support to Dimensional Innovations Incorporated.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any conversation around the motion? Seeing none, we'll move forward. I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
All right, the next thing would be the approved resolution 3-22 authorizing the CEO to execute and implement a labor contract extension with Amalgamated Transit Union ATU Local 1576. Carla. How are you, Carla?
I'm well. Yourself?
I'm good. Thank you.
So, hello, everyone. I a little nervous, my first time, but in any event, I'm here to discuss Community Transit's collective bargaining agreement with ATU expired December 31st, 2020. Given the challenges in meeting due to COVID-19, we reached agreement on a one-year contract extension through December 31st, 2021. ATU and CT met diligently to bargain a successor contract, but we were unable to reach final agreement before the end of the term. This means a delay in wage increases for our ATU represented employees who are key to maintaining the essential service we provide the public. Both ATU and CT recognize the financial security of our employees in these uncertain times is important. We bring forward for the Board of Directors review and approval a 2022 general wage increase and retention bonus, which not only ensures the financial security of these employees, but also celebrates their dedication and persistence in maintaining service to our customers through these trying times. CT and ETU will continue meeting regularly to bargain a successor contract. So that's what we bring forward for you today.
Anybody have any questions for Carla? Wow, Carla, nice job.
Thank you.
All right, seeing, okay, go ahead, John.
I was just gonna make a motion if that's all right.
Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve resolution 03-22 authorizing the chief executive officer to execute and implement a one-year labor contract extension between Community Transit and the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1576.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 03-22. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Passed unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
All right, moving on through the agenda here, we have the chair's report. So let me get back to my notes here.
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes,
could.
go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to pause there and thank the board for that action. This was a long process. I want to recognize Carla and Cesar for their leadership in working with our union partners. And I want to thank the board for engaging and providing counsel. And I think this is a really good result. It's a really important result for our employees. Carla's all business. She gave you the facts, but really to be able to recognize our frontline employees represented by ATU in this way is really meaningful. So I want to thank you for that leadership and that support that you're providing for our employees, particularly in light of some of the things we talked about earlier in the meeting. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And also reading through my notes again, Cesar, I have to apologize. You were supposed to introduce Carla on that. My fault.
You did a fantastic job. I could not have done better myself.
Well, yeah, yeah, but I need to stick to my crib notes here. Otherwise, I'm going to get in trouble on my last time. So, and I'm trying to give a good accounting so that the next chair will understand what they're supposed to do. So anyway, I like to, seeing how we did that, we do not have an executive session now. Is that true?
We do.
We do. Okay, good. So let's go back to the chair's report. Thank you very much to everybody on the board for the past year. It has been a great year, even though it has been very, very challenging for everybody. The staff, what can you say about the staff? We have the best staff in the world, bar none, and they prove it all the time. Do we have challenges? Sure, we have challenges, but our staff stands up to those challenges and takes them on and gets them done. To the drivers, thank you very much for everything you've done over the past 2 years being on the front lines. The mechanics, same thing. You're doing a great job keeping us running. And to the administrative staff, you impress me. Just totally impressed me. It's been great to work with Rick over this past year, the new CEO. As you all know, we've had a meeting every couple of weeks, a breakfast meeting. So we've been meeting at the Buzz Inn in Everett and having a conversation to see if we're all on the same page. And that's been very enlightening. I thank Rick very much for everything you've done this year. You've made some tough decisions. Some of them the board doesn't quite agree with, but you've made those decisions and moved on. And we'll look forward to having you continue on here. And Mark Holmes, I'm glad you're coming on board. We definitely need an operations officer here, and I'm glad that we picked one before I got out of here, and it's great to have you on board. So thank you. With that, we'll go into board communications, and I'll start with Mayor John Naring.
Thank you, Chair Daughtry, and I'll start by saying thank you for your leadership over the last year as board chair, and appreciate the active role you've taken and the time you've dedicated to it and the conversations we've had. So thank you for that. I know it's an added item to your schedule, so we appreciate it.
Hey, Mayor Naring,
Yeah.
can I impose on you for a minute? I was going to do something under other business, but since you've brought it up and Chair Daughtry's brought it up, I just want the board to know that we've got a little something here for Chair Daughtry on his way out the door. If we were together and present in person at Merrill Creek, we'd be able to hand this plaque off. But since he's announced his departure as chair, I thought rather than wait, I got a sense of where the conversation is going to go here during board communications. I want to present this on behalf of the staff to Chair Daughtry. I want to express my gratitude and appreciation. You've been such a tremendous partner, an advisor and leader for me as new CEO here at CT, working through tough issues, doing some of the fun stuff together. Thank you on behalf of the staff and personally on my behalf. And thank you, Mayor Naring, for allowing me to impose on your precious time under board communications, but I wanted to set the tone for what's coming next.
Absolutely. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did.
Thank you, Rick.
I wanted to also say, really excited to have our new COO, Mark Holmes, here as well. It was great to meet you and hear a few words from you. And we'll look forward to working with you here. It sounds like later in March. Yeah, maybe we'll get you out to a Safeco Field for a Mariners game or something. Sounds like we have a New York fan. Welcome to Community Transit. And I wanted to thank CEO Elgin Fricks. I did want to say, I appreciate you attending my State of the City address, and it was really nice to come in the next morning. There was a question that came up at the address, and it had to do with community transit. And I think the day had barely begun the next day when Rick had an email response ready to me that we could pass along and post on social media for those in the audience who had heard that question, which was pertinent to community transit service here in Marysville. So Rick, appreciate your attendance and then your attentiveness to quickly get that information to us so we could get it out to the public. So thank you.
Okay, next we'll have Mayor Frizzell. Welcome to the board.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here representing the wonderful city of Linwood. So if our new CEO Holmes is looking for a place to situate his family, I offer Linwood to come on down. We have excellent schools, lovely parks and rec, and we have this new sound transit train coming too.
I've heard.
Come check us out. I'm happy to be on this board and look forward to serving with all of you.
Thank you. Mayor Joe Marine.
All right, thank you very much, Chair Daughtry, and thank you for your leadership over this last year. It's not what anybody expected to continue to be in lockdown and doing Zoom and around the lockdown, but it seemed like it, right? And having to do these by Zoom. I also want to say I'm very happy to continue on the board of community transit, and like you, Chair Daughtry, the staff and all that work at community transit, there's really none better. You know, and a lot of us serve on different boards. This is by far has always been my favorite board, and again, I'm very happy to continue. Thank you to Rick's leadership as well. He came on again in a tough time, and I think he has done well. We're still reeling with it. Hopefully that Omicron is maybe towards the end and not just a small chapter. Right? We all hope that. And Mark, I have lived in Everett, Linwood, and Mukilteo, and I've got to say, certainly as you're looking around for homes, we would be more than happy to show you around Mukilteo. It's a beautiful community, and I'm not just saying that. Of course, I'm just saying that because I'm the mayor, but it's a beautiful community. So welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Sid Roberts.
Well, I just want to echo the comments of thanking Kim for her service. We appreciate what you've done, and always done it with a little humor and not taking it too seriously. And that's something that we all need to hear. Mark Holmes, welcome to the area. And I will also say that Stanwood would be a nice place for you to live. And I want you to know that the homes are quite a bit less money here. So just in case you don't want to live in that expensive Linwood or that expensive Buckle-Teal, you come on up to Stanwood, and we'd love to have you. And thank you for coming. Thank you. It's a big deal to come all across the country, and we recognize that. Thank you for your service. And I just also want to echo how fun it was to be at the Snow Goose Transit vehicle donation today. And I think that's one of the best things about that I enjoy, I should say, at community transit, is the van giveaway. Everybody just is so happy when they receive these. And I kind of joked with them today. I said, well, your double tall is just sitting outside. And they went, whoa, we don't want a double tall. But anyway, this was a pretty significant donation. And thanks to community transit for setting that up. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Roberts. Councilmember Schweddy.
Okay, I'll echo everyone, and thank you, Kim, for your service. I'm going to really miss your backgrounds because I like them. And I want to welcome Mark Holmes. I've been to New York multiple times, and this is definitely a different place. If you are a golfer, I'm in Arlington, and I live on the golf course. So, but unlike Stanwood, our prices are a bit on the high side. The one thing I would like to mention very quickly is I'd like to thank the staff for working with the Arlington Arts Council. They worked with community transit on getting permission to do artwork at the bus stops. So we will be seeing that coming in this year. So I appreciate you working with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Merrill.
Well, once again, I want to thank Kim for the leadership he's shown. It's been a hard year, and I think you've done extremely well, and I've appreciated that on the board. I did also want to note that I appreciate that when you're in command, you sit on the bridge of the Enterprise, and when you are fading into the sunset, you do that appropriately as well. So I didn't know if that's what you meant, but if so, then I caught it. I wanted to welcome Mark. Glad to see you here. And of course, all the real estate agents have been after you, but if you want to live in a really special place, consider Snohomish. Thank you.
Okay, Labor Representative Lance Norton.
Thank you, Kim. I too would like to thank Kim very much for your being the head of our board of directors, and also Mayor Marine for our committee chair, and to welcome Mark Holmes also. And I got to tell you, Mark, this is a lot of pressure off me. I'm glad that I'm not the only East Coast guy in this agency now. Welcome to you.
All right. It's good to have a partner here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and have Mike Gallagher.
Well, thanks again to the terrific work the board has done. As an innocent bystander, I can only watch. Kim, you did a great job. And Mark, welcome. And unlike everybody else, I am not going to make a pitch for beautiful, wonderful downtown, the greatest city in the world, Briar. I don't think that was a pitch, but you're certainly welcome here too.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Councilmember Payne.
Thank you. I just want to say it's nice to have attended the last couple of meetings, and I appreciate all the thoughtfulness from Ms. Woods from the executive office. She's been absolutely wonderful. And Director Holmes, I'm not going to try to pitch Edmonds. It's a great place to come and visit, and we probably have the best food around. So anyhow, come and enjoy. And if you ever need a quick tour, we've got a nice little setup right there on the water. Anyhow, welcome to you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. In my long tenure on this board, I've really grown to respect your leadership, and I just want to say thank you for all of the work that you've done. And to COO Holmes, welcome. Glad you're here. A lot of my favorite people are from the city, so it's nice to have somebody else around here too. I'm from here, but I have a tendency to like you folks. So
Great. Thank you so much.
thank you, sir.
Okay, I think that's it. And by the way, when you are looking for a home, make sure you check out Lake Stevens also. I mean, we got the largest lake in the county, beautiful, and a really good school network also. So anyway, we'll get rid of all that stuff going on. And next we are going to be going, did I miss anybody by chance? Did we have anybody else come in? Such as Stephanie Wright or Jared Mead? I haven't seen them come in. I guess not. Okay. So we will go ahead, and if you'll look at your agenda, you'll notice that there is a link to get into an executive session. We will be moving into executive session now, and then when we come back, we do have some other business to attend to, such as board chair, vice chair, PSRC representative, and those kinds of things. So let's go ahead and move, unless I'm wrong, which I have been in the past, and everybody knows, we'll move into the executive session.
Excuse me, the executive session is going to be about 10 minutes, and we'll be coming out at about 4:22 or 4:21.
Okay, thank you. I'll see you all in executive session.
Thank you.
The executive session has been extended 5 minutes to 4:26. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Labor rep is back.
Thank you, Lance.
Thank you, Kim.
All right, looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of us are here. It's good. All right, we were out of executive session. There was no action to follow. Next is the election of officers. Board officers are elected at the February board meeting each year. The positions elected include the leadership positions on the board chair, the vice chair, and the secretary for a 1-year term. Nominations will be taken from the board for each officer's position. Any voting member of the board is eligible for a position. The positions will be elected in this order: the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. Per the board bylaws, any board member can nominate. Any board members may self-nominate. The officers may, if re-elected, serve consecutive terms. Voting members may vote or may abstain. The person with the majority of the votes will take the position. Does have anybody questions on this? If not, we'll go ahead and move on. The floor is now open for nominations for the chair position.
Kim,
Go
I
ahead.
would like to nominate Joe Marine for the position of chair.
Okay, so we have a nomination for Joe Marine. Are there any other nominations for chair? Any other nominations? Going once? Going twice? Okay, well, I'm going to no, never mind. So we'll close the nominations, take a vote. Anybody that, all in favor of Joe Marine being the chair for the 2022 year? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Well, Joe, you're the new chair starting next month.
That's right. Not today.
Not today. So Joe Marine takes position. The floor is now open for nominations for the vice chair position.
Yes, Chair Daughtry, I would nominate Councilmember Jan Schweddy as vice chair.
All right, we have a nomination for Jan Schweddy. Is there any other nominations for vice chair? Anybody? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote on Jan Schweddy being the vice chair. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Passed unanimously. Congratulations, Jan. Next, the floor is now open for nominations for secretary position. Any nominations for secretary? Jan Schweddy.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Tom Merrill.
Okay, Tom Merrill is been nominated. Are there any other nominations for board secretary? Any nominations? Okay, we'll close the nominations. All in favor of Tom Merrill being the board secretary, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Passed unanimously. Congratulations to the 2022 board chair and vice chair and secretary. Thank you very much for everything you've done. So the only thing we have left is the PSRC rep. The board will select a 2022 Puget Sound Regional Council Transportation Policy Board member and alternate. We have one position of each. Any voting member on the board is eligible for the Transportation Policy Board position. Any board member can nominate, and board members may self-nominate. You may name a new representative and an alternate, or reappoint the same members currently serving. The positions will be elected in this order: the member and then the alternate. A little background. in the past year, it has been myself as the member and Council Member Schweddy has been the alternate. Are there any nominations for a new PSRC member?
Council or Chair Daughtry, can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
I guess I'd like to know if the current alternate and position are willing to go forward.
Second.
It's kind of an important question, right?
I can tell you that it has been a stretch for me to be able to be the member. I would continue to do so if that's what the board wants. If there's anybody else that would like to take that position, however, I would be happy to allow that to happen. There's a lot going on coming up in the PSRC Transportation Policy Board. There are 2 meetings that we tend to go to. There is a transit caucus that meets prior to the Transportation Policy Board on those Thursdays. This week, which is next week or the week after, whenever it is, they are canceled for the caucus. And in the caucus, what they do is they talk about the transit problems, what we need to, so that we have this caucus that goes forward into the Transportation Policy Board with one voice and talks about the issues. The issues that are on the table right now from the transit side are how the funds are, or how the federal funds are allocated to the different transit agencies. There is the Pierce Transit is right now trying to change the way it's always been. Most of us are reluctant to even talk about that. And the only time that we did change it was when the CARES Act and the ARPA funds came through. The CEOs basically got together and changed that. Most of you are aware of how that changed. Pierce Transit is trying to get that change to be permanent, and the rest of us are not in favor of that. So as far as the transit portion of the Transportation Policy Board goes, that's what it's really all about. Another thing that we do is we meet with Melissa Colley prior and Deborah Osborne prior to that meeting, usually the afternoon before at about 4 o'clock, to go over any kind of discussions that we might have from our perspective as community transit going into the transportation or the transit caucus the next morning, and then what's going on in the Transportation Policy Board. That has been fruitful and important for us to get together that way, and it has always been well appreciated to have Melissa Colley and Deb Osborne join us on that call and let us know what the thoughts are from the staff. So that all being said, if anybody else would like to be involved with the PSRC Transportation Policy Board, I would step aside.
Kim, could I say something?
No. Okay,
well,
go ahead, Jan.
I just wanted to remind those who weren't on there when I was put in as alternate. I represent Snohomish County on the Transportation Policy Board. So I'm already there.
Yeah, Snohomish County cities.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And so I am already on the board. So if there's someone who wants to be alternate, I don't mind doing that, because as we come back to in-house meetings, the Transit Caucus is in the morning at 8:30, and then the Transportation Policy Board is at 9:30. So I'm already there, and it's a 2-hour drive. So, but if anyone would like to do that, I actually meet on Monday with the county to go over things before that meeting also, besides community transit. But I just wanted everybody to know that I was actually on as a voting member.
Okay, anybody wants to do this?
Raise my hand.
Yep.
Susan Payne, council member for Edmonds. Can you tell me what date and time? I've got a bunch of other committee assignments from the city, but I would love to participate.
Well, unfortunately on that one, Susan, it has to be a voting member of the board.
Oh, okay. Sorry to hear that.
I
Okay,
would love to
thank
have you, but
Well, all righty.
in
No, that's good to
in 2
know.
years, we'll get you as a voting member on the board, and then we'll throw you over to Transportation Board.
Right on. Thank you.
The other one, Susan, that I might bring up, and please bear with me, board. The Snohomish County Cities has voting out right now. That just came out. They just had another email come out while we were in session. And they also have the ability to get on the Transportation Policy Board from Snohomish County Cities as an alternate. As you know, Jan Schwede is the primary for Snohomish County Cities, but she could be replaced during this vote. However, I know her name is on there again, but you could also go in as an alternate under that. So you can get involved with the Transportation Policy Board and find out what's going on. So I would recommend that you look into that.
Okay, thank you. Will do.
And Chair Daughtry, I just say, I have previously served on the executive board of PSRC as well as the Transportation Policy Board, and I understand the commitment and the driving down there and all of that. Unfortunately, I'm trying to, having just come back in as mayor, I'm trying to be very hard to limit all the different things that I'm, so that's the only reason. Otherwise, I would do it, but I don't feel comfortable throwing one more big thing in there right now, so.
And hence you didn't return my call today, so I could talk you into it. Thank you very much. All
This
right.
shows you how busy I was today.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, it looks like I should open the nomination and self-nominate for the PSRC board.
Second.
Transportation Board is second. All in favor, say
All in
aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I can see where this is going. Okay, so I do want to talk, I accept to continue with the PSRC Transportation Policy Board. Thank you very much. I do want to discuss the alternate prior to going into that vote. As Councilmember Shorty said, she is the primary for Snohomish County Cities and is the alternate for community transit. There has never been a problem with that. I just want everybody aware that if I am not attending the Transportation Policy Board, which has only happened once that I remember, then Jan has 2 votes, and that can be a little bit
Powerful.
Yeah, that can be a little problematic. We've never had to vote during that time, so there's never been a vote when I was gone that I know of. So I don't really know, Jan, what you really think about that. I know you stepped up and took that for us last year, and I appreciate it. And you're always there. So, but if anybody else would like to go in for the alternate, besides Jan, which, she has to tell us whether she's going to continue or not. But if anybody else would like to be the alternate, I'd like to hear that now. So Rick, you want to be alternate? I mean, come on now, bud.
I'm not a voting member.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. All right, Jan, would you continue in that?
Yeah, I don't have a problem. That's
Okay.
that's fine. And
Anybody
you're
else?
right. You only missed one.
Anybody else want to be? Nobody else. Okay. All in favor of Jan being the alternate, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Jan and I will continue on the PSRC Transportation Policy Board for Community Transit. With that, congratulations to everybody in their new roles. And I believe that Rick wants to have some final comments.
Well, I was gonna do this now.
Oh, okay.
But since the ice was broken earlier, I jumped in there. So we don't need to prolong the meeting. I'm grateful for the board's support, as I said earlier, for the ATU action today. I would join you, Kim, in congratulating our new officers. I'm looking forward to working with you. Joe and I, in fact, are having coffee tomorrow morning, so we're going to get right after it. And so I'm excited. So thank you.
All right. Well, if anybody doesn't have anything for the good of the order, we will go ahead and adjourn. Anybody? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
The recording has stopped.